Over 400 million years ago, a devastating mass extinction swept through the ancient oceans, destroying nearly everything in its path. Approximately 85% of all marine organisms perished, and the once thriving ocean ecosystem collapsed into ruin. This was the Great Ordovician extinction, one of the most catastrophic events in the entire history of life. Yet life refused to surrender. From the ashes of catastrophe, a remarkable new chapter was about to begin. When the ocean became a graveyard, the vast barren land quietly emerged as life's next frontier. This grand migration from sea to land would span 145 million years of relentless evolution. It unfolded across three great ages: the Silurian, the Devonian, and the Carboniferous, each transforming our planet forever. Our story begins in the Silurian period, roughly 444 million years ago, when Earth was recovering. The planet was emerging from a brutal ice age. Glaciers melted and sea levels began to rise slowly. Warming temperatures expanded the shallow seas, and oxygen levels in the water gradually returned to balance. Marine life slowly began its recovery, but the land above remained utterly desolate and lifeless. The ancient continents were covered in bare rock, with no soil, no shelter, and no stable water. Intense, ultraviolet radiation bombarded the surface, and extreme temperature swings between day and night were punishing. By any measure, the land was a hostile wasteland, seemingly impossible for any living thing to survive. But life is stubborn, even in such harshness. The first brave colonizer quietly appeared on the shore. Its name was Cooksonia, the earliest known vascular plant, and it changed everything that followed. Cooksonia was incredibly small, only a few centimeters tall, with no true roots or leaves at all. It looked like a cluster of slender green twigs, fragile and unimpressive. Yet, it carried a revolutionary secret. Inside its tiny stem was a vascular system, capable of transporting water and minerals from base to top. This simple innovation solved the critical problem of water loss on dry land, allowing the plant to survive. Though its range was limited and its lifespan short, Cooksonia was the first seed of life on barren Earth. But this tiny plant did not conquer the land alone. It had a hidden and powerful ally beneath the surface. Ancient fungi formed a symbiotic partnership with early plants, and together they began to reshape the world. Fungal threads penetrated deep into the rock, secreting acids that slowly dissolved the stone and released vital minerals. Calcium, phosphorus, and other nutrients were freed from the rock and delivered to the hungry plants above. In return, the plants share the organic sugars they created through photosynthesis, feeding the fungi below. This ancient partnership slowly weathered rock into the earliest primitive soil, making the land gradually habitable. Meanwhile, in the Silurian Ocean, a new evolutionary arms race was intensifying among the fish. Jawed fish began to appear and diversify rapidly, their powerful jaws making them far more effective predators. As competition in the ocean grew fiercer, some creatures began to look toward the empty land for survival. Early arthropods, ancestors of insects and spiders, possessed hard exoskeletons that helped prevent water loss on land. They ventured cautiously into the intertidal zone, feeding on microorganisms and decaying plant matter along the shore. These were not yet permanent residents, more like cautious explorers testing the boundaries of a new world. But their brief journeys ashore accumulated critical survival experience for the generations that would follow. Now we enter the Devonian period, roughly 419 million years ago, the legendary age of fish. In the ocean, jawed fish underwent an explosive burst of evolution, diversifying into countless new forms and species. Among them, the mighty Dunkleosteus reigned supreme as the undisputed apex predator of the ancient seas. Reaching up to 8 meters long and weighing over a ton, its armored head was covered in thick bony plates. Instead of true teeth, it had razor-sharp bony edges, capable of crushing bone with devastating force. Early sharks also appeared during this period, with streamlined bodies and an acute sense of smell for hunting. The marine food chain grew increasingly complex, with producers, consumers, and decomposers, forming a stable ecosystem. But, as dramatic as the ocean's story was, the real revolution was happening on the land above. During the Middle Devonian, plants achieved a monumental evolutionary leap, developing true roots, woody trunks, and leaves. Deep root systems penetrated the soil, absorbing water and nutrients far more efficiently than anything before. Roots also anchor the soil firmly, reducing erosion and creating stable ground for other organisms to inhabit. Lignified trunks allowed plants to grow tall, reaching upward to compete fiercely for precious sunlight. Broad leaves expanded the surface area for photosynthesis, dramatically boosting the production of organic matter. Together, these innovations allowed plants to spread far beyond the shoreline, forming Earth's very first forests. These ancient forests fundamentally transformed the planet, absorbing vast amounts of carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. Falling leaves and decaying plant matter accumulated on the ground, enriching the soil and nurturing new life. The stage was now set for the most extraordinary event of the Devonian. Vertebrates would finally step onto land. Around 375 million years ago, a remarkable creature called Tiktaalik appeared in the shallow waters. Tiktaalik was a true evolutionary bridge, possessing features of both fish and land-dwelling vertebrates simultaneously. It had gills for breathing underwater, but also possessed primitive lungs capable of extracting oxygen from air. The bones within its strong fins had evolved into primitive, limb-like structures, hinting at legs yet to come. Though it could not walk upright, Tiktaalik could drag itself through shallow water and across moist mud flats. This creature proved that vertebrates had developed the essential physical tools needed to survive beyond the water. Tiktaalik paved the way for amphibians and reptiles, opening a door that would never close again. Now we arrive at the Carboniferous period, beginning about 359 million years ago, a true golden age. The Earth entered a prolonged warm and humid phase, and enormous swamp forests covered the continents like green oceans. Towering lycopsents and tree ferns dominated these forests, with some trees soaring over 30 meters into the sky. Abundant sunlight and warm, humid climates fueled explosive plant growth across every corner of the land. Massive photosynthesis by these forests drove atmospheric oxygen levels to an astonishing 30 to 35%. That was far higher than today's 21%, and it unleashed something extraordinary upon the world. High oxygen meant organisms could breathe more efficiently, fueling larger body sizes than ever seen before. Welcome to the age of giant insects, one of the most astonishing spectacles in all of Earth's history. The most iconic creature was Meganeura, a dragonfly with a wingspan reaching an incredible 70 centimeters wide. Roughly the size of a small eagle, Meganeura soared through the ancient forests as the top aerial predator. It hunted smaller insects with devastating speed and precision, ruling the skies of the Carboniferous world unchallenged. On the forest floor below, another giant roamed, Arthropalura, a millipede stretching over 2.5 meters long. Its body had dozens of armored segments covered in a tough exoskeleton, making it a formidable forest dweller. Arthropora fed on decomposing plant material, serving as a giant recycler on the ancient forest floor. Giant spiders, enormous cockroaches, and other oversized creatures also thrived throughout the Carboniferous forests. These giant insects dominated the terrestrial food chain and became the defining icons of the Carboniferous era. But the Carboniferous was not only about giant insects. Vertebrate evolution took another monumental step forward here. Around 305 million years ago, the earliest true reptile, Hylonomus, appeared on the forest floor. Hylonomus carried a revolutionary adaptation, the amniotic egg, which finally freed vertebrates from water for reproduction. Embryos could now develop entirely on land, without ever needing to return to the water for their survival. This breakthrough allowed reptiles to colonize far drier environments, gradually replacing amphibians as the dominant land vertebrates. The terrestrial ecosystem grew ever more complex, with reptiles, insects, and plants forming interconnected webs of life. The Carboniferous also left a lasting gift for humanity, buried deep beneath the ancient swamp forests. Countless dead plants were buried under thick sediment, slowly compressed in oxygen-depleted environments over millions of years. Over immense geological time, This ancient plant matter transformed into coal, the fossil fuel we still depend on today. This is why the Carboniferous is also known as the Age of Coal, a direct legacy of those ancient forests. Looking back, life's journey from ocean to land spanned 145 million years of continuous struggle. From tentative Silurian exploration, through the Devonian Green Revolution, to the Carboniferous Golden Age of flourishing life. The environment drove evolution, and evolution reshaped the environment, in a magnificent cycle of mutual transformation. This colonization expanded life's frontiers, reshaped the atmosphere, built fertile soil, and regulated Earth's very climate. He laid the foundation for every complex creature that followed, including US proof of life's extraordinary resilience. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. See you next time.